Hi folks, Stephen Nesbitt here, June the 4th on Vancouver Island. Funny day, bit of rain, bit of sun, bit of clouds. No, it's we're just getting ready. A couple of weeks we'll be rolling into summer, and it's been a crazy year when you think back last year, all the crap had sort of gone on. When you think back last year at this time, we were in the midst of rainbow painted crosswalks, everybody hugging, all about inclusion, everybody trying to figure out their pronouns, and all that sort of stuff. And there were marches there too, but nobody was breaking windows. It was violent. Nobody was worrying about social distancing, and then that quickly evolved into, I know up in this part of the island, there was just a furor about getting rid of plastic straws and paper cups and plastic bags. And we were going to become a plastic strawless community, and everybody was sort of getting all excited about that. And that was rolling on, and then right on the heels of that, the young gal out of Sweden with her entourage and climate change. And it was interesting because this young lady was the priestess of the climate change movement at the time, and politicians were stepping over themselves to get a photo op with her. Professors and doctors and lawyers and mothers and daughters and fathers and sons and dogs and cats. Everybody was following the young gal to sort of get in on the movement. Climate change. And it's interesting because then there was rumor, we got interrupted by Christmas, and then there was rumor of this bug coming out of Wuhan, this Ruan Virus, this Wuhan waltz that was looking pretty bad. They were welding doors shut in people's houses in Wuhan. Millions of people in isolation. Of course, our governments and that didn't think there was anything to it, and thousands of people flew around in the World Health Organization. Well, we all don't have to speak much about that. If you haven't been away off the planet, you know what happened there. I mean, we had all sorts of false information and regurgitated by the media then. But then it became a frenzy, total frenzy. They decided it was so serious that, you go into a grocery store with your cloth bag, because they were going to ban plastic bags, and everybody's looking at you sideways if you went in and took a plastic bag. So, but you couldn't go into the store with your bags. Now they'd stop you and say, no, you can't bring that in. And people with their reusable cups and their metal straws going in for a coffee, the whole staff would back off into a corner, and someone would be on the phone to a bylaw officer. Hey, wait, these people are here with refillable cups, and I think they're going to use cash, sort of thing. It got started to really heat up, and then the government decided that they would sort us into essential and non-essential, and anybody deemed non-essential had to stay home in their self-imposed house arrest. The essential could go to work, and they were going to pay allowances to the non-essentials to keep them quiet, because there's you've got to look after people. And they got us, everybody started, it's a strange phenomenon. I think it started in Europe, but it sort of moved over here quickly. There's that lag time, happens in Europe, happens in the States, and happens here. And so then people are all clapping and banging pots and with a wooden spoon at 7 o'clock every evening. And that stayed in their isolation. Of course, masks weren't required in the beginning because they were useless. We were told they didn't work by the World Health Organization, doctors, and all of our experts that we sort of listened to. And that was good. The media picked it up, but all of a sudden, around May, they became mandatory. Masks became mandatory, and so we're all wearing masks. And if you weren't self-isolating, it was pretty tough. Some young fellow was out playing with his basketball on an empty court, got a $770 fine. Some young fellow was out skateboarding just on his own, no one else around for miles, and he got a $770 fine. And one fellow was just sitting on a park bench, pulled his motorcycle up and sat on the bench watching the sunrise and sunset, and he got an $880 fine. Some lady was pushing her daughter on a swing in an empty park, nobody else around. She got arrested, handcuffed, while her child was crying. She got frisked and searched and was given an $880 ticket. Some fellow roller skating with his children on an empty laneway, nobody around. Well, he got a ticket. They all got ticketed as well. Some fellow in Calgary was, a minister in Calgary was feeding the homeless. He got a $1,200 ticket, and that ticket was for not social distancing. So everybody's taking this pretty damn seriously. You know, that's big money. Even though you're getting some of these people getting the tickets weren't getting the $2,000 from the government. Other people were. Not all non-essential workers were treated essentially fairly. There were different sections, and so it was really getting to a point in this pandemic where it's going to last till they get a vaccine. And one time they saw how good we clapped at 7 o'clock. That in Toronto they actually spent just under $5,000 to paint 400 white circles on green grass, on the green grass. So people who wanted to go outside had to stand in that circle or sit in that circle. And it's interesting because I've often wondered if anybody went by there when there was nobody around, if the one person in the park was sitting in the circle or were they sitting between the circles. But anyway, we sort of really, everybody was obeying, and because it was just big fines, man. But then all of a sudden, a protest broke out in the States. Some cops, and again, I guess it has to go to court for all that to be proven. So a fellow died being arrested by cops who treated him really badly. Anybody who saw that doesn't watch it. You can't watch it twice. And so all of a sudden protests broke out. And it was amazing because the protest started. There was no social distancing, but nobody was getting tickets for that. Of course, this is in the States, so maybe then riots start breaking out, and all hell broke loose. Buildings being burnt, people being beaten up, and some mayors and governors and just standing by, saying, "Well, now this is peaceful protest. Let's let them do that." And of course, like that, it was an interesting lag time because this was a reverse lag time. This one started in the States. Hey, then Canada said, "Well, hey, we got to get in on this too." So from Vancouver to Toronto, Winnipeg, Calgary, they're having protests. They're having protests about racism. And the Prime Minister came on and said, "We have systemic racism in Canada." And of course, all of our mainstream media, which by now everybody knows, just really bullshit you, and it's pretty fake. They all have the same script. They got on this thing too, and we have systemic racism. And some of the stations are setting up town halls so they could get into this and start really looking at it. And but the interesting thing is, in the city where the pastor got fined $1,200, got a ticket for $1,200 for feeding the homeless. I mean, people are shoulder to shoulder, jowl to jowl, and there's no tickets being handed out. So a young reporter who had some brass asked one of the officers if these people were going to be ticketed, and he said, "Well, That's the commander's decision. I don't make that decision. Toronto, the same thing, where you sat in if you didn't sit in a circle, you were in deep trouble. Some guy opened his restaurant because he was getting frustrated, and he had it all set up for distancing, whatever, serving bacon and eggs in the morning. He got an $880 ticket, and I watched an interview with him. He said that he's been now threatened with a year in jail and a $500,000 fine if he decides to open back up again. And he couldn't understand that because, you know, you go to the big box stores like Costco or Walmart, I mean, people are all over the place. And like he said, I have better control of social distancing in my small place than they do there. But no, he was facing a year in jail, he said, or threatened with that. I suppose that's why they let prisoners out in the height of this confusion. Some violent prisoners were let loose, and maybe they had to make room for somebody who wanted to open his restaurant and keep his staff employed. So anyway, as you probably already know, it was just really a mix-up. It was really crazy. The protest even spread to London, in England. This is where the reverse thing. The protest started in the States. Canada picked up because, hey, we ain't going to be left behind. We got to be racist too. We had the virus, we have the racist, we have the rainbow sidewalks. Hey, we can't miss out on this one. And of course, then England picked it up in this reverse lie time. And in none of the countries were people who were protesting given a ticket for not being social distancing. I even noticed some of the people who had protests about plastic bags and plastic bottles were carrying plastic bottles. I even saw some plastic straws in McDonald's cups. Everything is moving at fast pace. And so I have to apologize for yesterday. I had phone calls coming in when I was doing the short blurb, and then I had to go because somebody was at the door trying to get in. And it was Don. And then I asked Don how he is doing, and he said he just can't keep up with all this. He just can't keep up with it all. He's still trying to figure out what pronouns he's supposed to be putting on his social page, and he was pretty distraught. So I'm glad that I cut it off early and went and chatted to him. He said it just was getting too much. And I want to say a hi out to two friends on this one. Len Moody out of Camden, New Jersey, and Paul Sequence Ferguson out of New York. Now, we hadn't chatted in a long time, and I think Paul said it was 15 years. And we made an agreement we're never going to let it pass 15 years before we touch base. And it's funny how life and things get in the way. So that's one of the bright sides of all this commotion and craziness that went on. Just made you touch base with people to make sure they're okay and they're all right. And no, they're all okay. Sad about what's going on. And I think Len Moody said it best. The problem with people today is that they haven't read that book. And I said, which book? He said, no, that book we used to discuss. You are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with. And you have to look at the way they're going, the way they're thinking, what they're doing, the way they're living, and is that how you want to be? And if it isn't, well, maybe you need to change those 5 associates or 2 or 3 of them. It's interesting. And as Paul pointed out, the other problem is it's all about moi. It's me. We don't look at the whole thing. And but anyway, I got a bee floating around in here. As Dr. Chris Martin says, plant a garden. So we've taken him at his word. This is just a starter place, and we have a garden as well. But the way things are going, plant a garden. And you need bees, because bees are they make the world go around. Take care. Bye for now.